Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is Moses Kimibaro on the Pure Digital Passion Podcast. In this special episode, I'm bringing you something a little bit different but incredibly powerful. I was recently invited to speak and be part of a dynamic discussion panel at the Digital Marketing and AI Roundtable hosted at Strathmore University's School of Tourism and Hospitality on Thursday, the 10th of April, 2025. The conversation, moderated by Strathmore University's Joe Owako, featured an incredible lineup including Kevin Omondi of DotNext, Ronald Okumu of AI Connect, and Tony Muiruri, all seasoned minds in tackling the real-world intersections of AI, marketing, and hospitality. We went really deep. We explored how MarTech and AI are transforming customer experience, boosting operational efficiency, opening new revenue streams in Kenya's tourism and hospitality sector. From predictive analytics and personalization to influencer marketing, CRM systems, and even how ad agencies must adapt to stay relevant in an AI-first world, it's all here. The audio quality isn't studio grade as this was recorded on my phone, but I promise you the insights are pure gold. So whether you're in the room or not that day, buckle up. This one's just for you.
What our speakers talked about, I'll just go straight to the point. And the first question will go to Ronald. What are the major opportunities of AI in the hospitality sector? And what factors are affecting the adoption of AI services in the hospitality sector?
Opportunities. I always say technology is an enabler. Tech is not tech for its own sake. What we've seen in terms of the two broad areas was one, how can you use AI to grow your revenue at a significantly lower cost as opposed to traditional models. An example I'll give, say, for example, the hotel bot, assuming it was somebody who was taking the call. Let's count the cost of that particular engagement. The first thing would be human resource, possibly infrastructure costs. There is what you call the average handling time of getting to the point of building booking. So all those would be the cost of acquiring that particular sale. In less than 2 minutes, all that has been done, including an upsell. Real life scenario, we're seeing a case of about 2.5x of an investment to acquire a user, especially in the tourism sector. So the tourism sector is very interesting because the average cost of booking is significantly higher in comparison to, say, retail. So your cost of AI in that space and revenue increase would be quite low. Secondly is cost optimization. And cost optimization, if you're looking at staffing, you're also looking at elements of the technology cost, as was mentioned. If you're to adopt some of the tools it's mentioned about, it's maybe $20-$30 a month, significantly cheaper as well. There's elements of maintenance where we know, for example, all the engineering data points can be sent to a centralized engine and certain actions can be taken based on, say, occupancy. Maybe switching off your ACs, making sure the room service is being done on time, and things like that. So operational cost savings again. So revenue increase and operational cost savings. But I still go back to your strategy. The space we're at is actually implementation of AI in real life use cases in Kenya. So it has to be again impact on your strategy. The second question was?
Yes, what factors are affecting
adoption? What we've seen is senior level management buy-in has been the biggest factor. We'll find possibly delays in project implementation of going up to 6 months because the senior team has to be able to adapt into that. The other one is knowledge and capacity building. In our case, we tried building the technology in Kenya. We couldn't find the kind of caliber of engineers. So we've ended up building the tech both in Canada and in India, where at least the resources and the technical capacity was there. So upskilling. And again, conversations on how do you upskill yourself in terms of adoption of the technology. So leadership and talent.
Okay, thank you, Ronald. Next question goes to Moses. Can you shed more light on the use of hotel business intelligence tools to help those in the hospitality industry stay in the know-how?
Okay, that's a fairly broad question. I think it was looked at maybe through the lens of AI and different tools that exist. I think I showed the example of Avian and the fact that it's a data analytics platform that you can plug into different data sources. So the idea is that if you, for instance, wanted to do an analysis across all your digital marketing platforms, including Google Analytics for your website, your TikTok Analytics and all these platforms, you're able to then ingest that data in a sort of holistic way, and then it's able to analyze and give you the insights from that platform. And I think, again, through the marketing lens and using AI, as was mentioned on the slides, you're looking at a time benefit or time to results benefit of up to 92% faster than you could do it in a conventional manner. So I think that's a classic example of where at least one tool that allows you to do it in a sort of consolidated way. If you're not able to do that, or to buy the subscription, I think it gives you a 7-day trial. You can still use your standard paid version of ChatGPT, just the data, either spreadsheets or PDFs or whatever you have, and you can literally then, in a slightly more manual manner, possibly a bit more tedious, you should be able to analyze your data and have insights on what is working, what's not working, and your next steps.
Good. Next question goes to Kevin. How can hotel marketing problems be addressed using digital ads?
Again, just like Moses, I'll begin to know what specific problems those are. But let me kind of delve into what I've seen as major problems when it comes to marketing hotel. I think the number one problem has been about positioning and differentiation. If you can't define what you stand for in a sea of sameness, people sort you by price. And so one of the biggest gaps I have seen is that, and especially in a competitive, because when you segment your hotel properties, you have what is called the urban hotel setup that appeals to the traveler. You have what I speak about, the getaways. The first thing I would say I'm seeing is a big problem is properties and brands differentiating themselves. And that comes with the whole thing about brand positioning, brand messaging. What do you really stand for? Because if you don't do that, and this is what digital has done, and I know I tell people this, the more when digital started, because there were fewer people, it was very easy. And Moses, if you can remember, if you had a website with a banner, it was easy for people to click. But the more it becomes easy to do something, and even with AI, the harder it becomes. That is the irony. What do I mean? Just the fact that it's easier to create a blog post critically means that there are billions of blog posts getting created, which essentially means that the first thing when you're thinking about marketing, it's about having great product, right? Because the differentiating thing will no longer be about content creation, because if my 14-year-old can create content with AI, and then it means that can no longer be a source of competitive advantage. That's why even as a technical person, I am speaking about going back to the basics of understanding the consumer. And once you understand the consumer, find your niche. I spoke about 10 different trends you can think about. Are we going to pitch around the digital nomad? So that's number one. Number two, tied to that, is I kind of think that our messaging, because we've not understood our segment and our positioning, our messaging is the same. X and Y hotel in Nairobi from 10,000 shillings. One way to resolve that is understand and create products and offerings for different audience segments. Okay? I would say if there's a trend around women, solo travelers, do I have an ad campaign and a user journey that speaks to women, and offerings and packages that speaks to women? And the beautiful thing about AI, and one of our partners that we are working with, is where you can personalize what a lady sees and what Moses sees as the hotel room is different, and what Kevin sees as a digital nomad is different. And so that is one way. It's really about differentiation, and for me, it's really differentiation and personalization. That's number one. Number two, messaging. I feel we just think an ad is about, I have this property and this is our hotel and this and that's it. An ad success and marketing success has more to do with messaging and what you are saying, more than sometimes even what you sell. You know, you can have great product, but if your messaging is off, it doesn't get noticed and it doesn't resonate. What does it mean? When I'm doing an offer for women and I'm targeting solo travelers, I have to craft the messaging that speaks to those people. And then number three in hospitality, and there are many others, I don't want to talk about them about time, is what you call reputation. Okay? What do I mean? Hospitality is very reputation driven, so people tend to look at what other people are saying. And here's the opportunity. We have AI tools that, as someone checks off, are you tracking and finding a way of capturing their sentiments in terms of rating you on Google? Because ultimately, for some of your hotels, when I go to Google Business Profile, the first star there is a 3-star. And that 3-star is speaking about how the waitress was rude. Now, you might have a 4.8, but if you don't have a new reputation app, that's the first thing someone will say. If he's traveling from Abu Dhabi, he will not come to your hotel. Thank you. I think I would want to stop there. There are many others. If I had specifics, I'll talk to them. But really, for me, if you ask me, brand differentiation is very important. Messaging and managing reputation and what others are saying about you. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
Can I just add something to what Kevin had to say? So it's me here.
Okay.
I think the importance of brand has never been more important, and this is something we see when we run campaigns.
Yes.
If you've invested in building the brand, and I'll give you an example, there's a well-known real estate company we have handled over the years for campaigns. What they've done very well is done brand building, right, through traditional media and other activities. And then we have what we call the unknown brands that will try and do a digital campaign with us. And what we notice is sometimes the brand that has been developed and nurtured over time will outperform the unknown brand by a factor sometimes of 5 to 1, right? Which means that first you need to get the branding right, and the messaging and the communication. And then as you're buying ads and so forth, people will be able to look and say, oh, I think I can trust that brand. I think they have a good reputation. I think, you know, the way they communicate suggests that they are authentic. So I think that's another thing maybe to say, that sometimes we put the cart before the horse, in terms of we want the sales, but we've not actually developed the brand in a way that connects with our target audience.
Moses, sorry. And I want to add on that, because many of us see the thing, I have a new property, so I need to go on Facebook and click and say that I have rooms 20,000, buy now. Brand building is very subtle. It's about, if someone is shooting a video, you tell them come to our hotel and have a very subtle mention of that. It's about how Dave and Steve Money are shooting videos and they mention your hotel. It's about content and your hotel being mentioned, not in the context of a transaction, but it's being mentioned around that. And so the whole thing about influencers taking photos at your hotel, you're not selling, it's just you're showing there's a lot of vibe about your property that builds the brand. That goes a long way in terms of, now when you do marketing spend, what brand does it is that the groundwork, so that when you're doing marketing spend, it's much easier for people to relate with you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin. Next question goes to Tony. What is a hotel CRM system? Just highlights a few benefits and features of the system. And how can CRM be effective in increasing customer satisfaction and loyalty building within the hospitality establishment? Yeah.
Thank you. I think before I take that example, just want to refer to what you just said about brand. Most of you have seen videos. The first thing that clicks in your mind is, where was that place? Somebody has put in a great ad, great experience, but forgets one element: the location, the outfit. So that's a lost opportunity. So in creating content, it's very important for us to identify ourselves to our markets. So CRS is the name for where I sit as a marketer and as a hotelier. CRS is what we drive the hotel operated. If you are not able to identify who our customers are, then you are doing an 8 to 5 job and not generating future businesses. So going through CRS is important for us to identify who is our market, where do they come from, what type of business has they come to do, who are his companions, where organization is he, because that then will expand to you your CRS profile. If we don't take it seriously, both in accommodation, conferencing, then casual dining, it's very important for us to take CRS as the first element. So in our back of house, there must be somebody who runs the CRS, who creates a profile for every other customer in, because that is what is going to build us as we go forward. So it helps in customer retention, understanding the customer base, understanding the customer's needs, opportunities that individual customer will bring for you in the future. Can extend to even organizations. If you identify an organization as one of your major clients, you must know who is behind the organization, their name, the booker, and create a profile about them in the organization. You must look at the customer as an organization. What are their booking habits? So it's no longer just a one booking event. It becomes a long time relationship client. Who are their links? Because we work through links. What social media are they in? How is their website? How can we position? You take an organization and go and dive deep into it. When there is a new executive, when there's a new employee coming in, you must create some relationship that ensures that even the new employee knows we exist. I take a very good example of one day. One of the major business developers, business opportunities in this country is the UN. UN becomes the name. Behind UN, there is USA. As you can see, what has happened to USA is affecting every other enterprise. So we know USA. If you only know USA and not know who the affiliates are, your business is more or less going down. If you know UN and who are the partners in it, you have an opportunity to grow. So CRS becomes a very important, a key element. If it's not there, then you are doing an 8 to 5 job. You shall get the business as a last resort. Even for example, our country, Kenya government, has its own conferences setting. You must understand where they're coming from, what they want to do in the next few years. Because any event, for example, coming into Kenya today wasn't planned yesterday. It comes down 3 years down the line. So following our customers in detail is what ensures that we remain afloat. The beauty about it is that AI has come to assist. Within where you are able to talk to or understand 10 companies in a day, you can do that almost 30. Create adverts to them, questionnaires, events for them, even when they're thinking of what to do. CRS helps us with AI to further engage them.
Oh, thank you, Tony. Yes, so it's about that. Today in business. Okay, Ronald.
I'd like to add into what Tony is talking about. CRM is typically your customer relationship management software. So what you find is when you do your awareness and you identify your needs coming in, those need to be come and pushed into a central engine. Now, this particular engine is typically linked to ways of getting back to the guest or the customer, and secondly linked to lines of business. CRMs allow you to be able to make sure that the customer is supported end to end, especially in a case where there's a handshake with the line of business. For example, you spoke about a central reservation system. So a guest can come into your engine through socials. I want a seaside room view, but maybe the room that I have is leaking. You need the reservation team to come and handle that from an escalation point. But how do you confirm that the customer was supported and closed? So the line of business system also needs to feed back into your CRM. The good thing about AI now is the middlewares in terms of CRMs are seemingly phasing out. As long as your data warehouse has your customer information, the LLM algorithms are very clear in terms of what action you want it to take. You can actually do the end-to-end action and bring back. You can get the end-to-end insights being brought back to feed into that, and then back to branding. So that's your ideal customer profile. More insights coming into it and reach your data, then allow you to then see what next campaign do we do in terms of brand, to build what changing consumer habits are there. Reports. Most CRMs also will give you reports, again, tailor-made to your business. And this can be periodic. With AI, we're now seeing there's a huge jump where reports are now becoming real-time. And this can be available through web portals on your phones and so forth. And there's the element of actionable intelligence where certain AI agents can then be tasked to follow on whatever insights have come in and so forth. So I'd say CRMs are super important, but I typically say that try and get a CRM that's holistic. I think a few in the market are seeing the Soho, fairly good, not very expensive, easy to integrate. They have APIs. There is Odoo in the market now. I think Odoo has a wide variety of systems across board that can easily talk to each other. So even as a looking at a CRM, avoid legacy systems, try and get one where it has a lot of interconnections into it.
Thank you, Ronald. So you've heard about the CRM. Today in business, focus is on retention as opposed to acquisition. The reasons are it is cheaper retention. There's also the CLTV, customer lifetime value, which you're able to know how much a loyal customer is likely to give your business. And there's the Pareto's 20/80 principle. It is 20% of loyal customers who give you 80% of your profits. Now, to conclude, this can be shared among the panelists. Now, we say that a trained professional in AI, especially marketing, can do up to 85% of what agencies do for you. Now, with this in light, you can share that among the panelists. What do you think is the future of agencies? The coming of data.
I think that's saying I'm in the hot seat. I run and own an agency. Absolutely. I think we are at risk because if you are still doing things in the same way you were doing them 3 years ago before the advent of AI, then you deserve to go out of business. However, if you are applying AI practices and best practices, because even AI is now evolving to the point in terms of the different use cases we can deploy, I think two things happen. One is from a productivity standpoint and quality of work and volume of work, AI allows your agency to be more productive. The second thing is that, which I like to say is that quite often with AI, I like to say that the best thing about AI is that it allows you to do something that I call, don't give a human a robot's job, meaning that if the AI is able to do things better than the human could, then defer that work to them. But that also then means that within an agency practice, you then are allowed to focus on the strategic work and less of the day-to-day grinding and cumbersome and time-consuming work that does not add strategic value. So I think today, the modern ad agency practitioner across the practices, whether it's the graphic designer to the digital strategy, the social media content person, and anyone who works across the processes, needs to find ways to utilize AI to essentially develop better outcomes across the board, but also better reporting and insights. And I think the way forward is going to be that the clients are going to expect you, the agency, providing them services, to actually give them more in terms of value and not necessarily be charging them on an hourly basis, but based on the actual output or the outcomes that you're delivering for them. Which means that potentially AI will even make you better at delivering the value that they expect from your advertising or your marketing services. So I think you can actually enhance the agency if you see for what it is and how you can use it. But if you are essentially stuck in the past and you have refused to evolve with a new reality, then you deserve to go out of business.
And I want to echo what Moses is saying. The disruption there is not just for agencies, it's everyone, including law firms, including the other day I built an AI model that I just picked I had a database from a hardware. And so I took the database, built a model and told it, give me a bill of quantities and act as a quantity surveyor. And it was able to give me a quote for a house. And with plus or minus, right? AI will disrupt everything. The McKinseys of this world are really in trouble. But here's the thing. I think there will be room for both. One of the views I've taken in my agencies, and that's why I'm going big on training, is for the clients, there are clients whom I'm going and training them to develop internal capacity. Meaning that if you are a designer, I train you about the principles of marketing, I teach you about awareness, I give you an AI tool to target consumers, then there's a coach in which I give you to hand, because it's a reality, there are businesses that want that. But the caveat is this, they say a fool with a tool is still a fool, right? If you're not a smart marketer, don't expect that if you use AI, you'll be a better marketer. It will just give you the wrong output, garbage in, garbage out. What essentially means is two things. One, the agency as you know it, and any service business around knowledge, as you know it over the next 5 years, there will be major, major disruption. That without a doubt. The flip side is organizations who are trying to do DIY. In other words, you cannot be a lawyer. Yes, you do some documents, but there are things you need a lawyer to help you with. So that's the view we've taken as an agency. So we roll out a model saying, DIY, I give you tools and say, this is how you can do it. Done with you is where I train you and I coach you, and done for you. Interestingly, a lot of the people where I've told them, look, do it yourself and have your guy, have come back to me and said, I need help. That's the reality I've learned. It's interesting that many people have told, let me train your guy, let me teach them how to do content, let me teach them how to do Canva. After 2 months, I normally see them coming back. What has ended up happening is this. I've had to now train that market guy in terms of how do you coordinate marketing and use AI, but there are things the studio uses. The reality, there will still be a place for agencies and expertise. You cannot run away from that. But there will also be a place for organizations to leverage efficiencies and they work together. That's the best model.
I think dentists are not going out of business, huh? So I think they do something really well. They spent decades usually learning the craft. And I think equally so in marketing, I don't think AI is going to eliminate us completely. I think it's simply going to make us focusing on the real value proposition, and then AI will amplify those capabilities.
Mine is a bit different to what he asked earlier in terms of customer acquisition cost, customer lifetime value. So that typically is a correlation between two departments, your marketing department and your finance department. If you have a CFO, the CFO should be competent enough to compute this kind of matrices. However, if you don't, you need to consider maybe a finance business partner. For example, it's now April. Easter is coming up. You've done your Easter promotions. How much have you spent? You know, I'm sure you do. How many customers have you booked? That's your customer acquisition cost right there, right? Customer lifetime value should tell you if you acquire me now, every Easter possibly I go on holiday, the next time I'll come to your establishment is maybe sometime next year. So this metric says if you track them over time, they support you in being able to then tell your ROI on marketing cost. Now, this tends to be super important, especially if you want to secure more budgets from the finance teams to then again grow your brand, acquire more users and all that. But again, still back down to data, where now your accountants have to now wear more of a finance hat, not just an accounting specific kind of hat.
I think from an operational point of view, no department is basically going to lose its employee. It's the way we start off by having Coke and Fanta. And suddenly there was Coke Zero. Suddenly there is water. We're just getting a forum where there's a new product that is going to enhance our capacity. So just like kids go to school, we too need to go back to school to maintain our position. If you don't do that, you have a chance of losing that position to someone else who has capacity of what you refuse to go and do. And that is learning online. So from my understanding, no one is doing their jobs, but there is an opportunity for you to enhance your capacity, your capability as you move forward.
Thank you very much, Kevin, Moses, Ronald, and Tony. We now move on to engaging the audiences. And first thing, before we take questions from the audience, I'd like at least two of you to share that digital tools that you have adapted in your institutions, and share with us the challenges while using those digital tools. So, those are two people who would like to share one with us. Yes, anyone? Okay. Yeah. Blue?
Hi everyone.
Hi.
Yeah, my name is Joe Owako, and I'd love to engage by saying my major tool. I'm speaking as a travel influencer. My major tool is TikTok. But the greatest challenge I'm having with hotel and restaurant owners is that they really don't view social media marketing as a thing they highly invest in. They feel it's just come, experience what you have to experience, show the world what you have experienced, but they don't believe in actually putting monetary value into it. You get? They're still fixed on I can invest in a very big billboard somewhere, but I cannot invest into this human who is creating content to give my place more brand awareness and recognition out there. So yeah, that's.
So how do you think you can overcome the challenge?
I just love that while you are here, I can see a lot of restaurant and hotel owners who are actually being taught that, you know what, content creation is taking a larger part of our daily lives. It's very easy for me to see something as a video form while I'm scrolling, and it's very hard for me to actually, when I'm driving, niangalie juu, niangalie billboard. The rate at which I'll see this video and it will engage me is very high than the rate at which I'll look at that. So how am I going to overcome this? It might not be directly from me, but from the society. It's time we embrace the real statistics that, you know what, we are going to decide. So be at a point where you're at a, you have accepted that you need to invest into this side. As you were saying, those who will be left behind are the ones who will fall down. Those who embrace what is coming are those who will go ahead. You understand me? Yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's have okay.
Good morning. My name is Patience. I'm a hotel marketer. I'd like to respond to your point of view best from a hotelier. If you noticed, he said, if you don't know about UN USAID, most hotels are affected when USAID pulled out. Most hotels make revenue, they'll not tell you, from conferencing. The bulk of the money comes from conferencing. So when you go to a director or a manager and say, let's pay an influencer for this, they'll calculate the money that an influencer or a family or a tourist will bring in. When a big hotel books a conferencing once, they can make 10 million, 20 million from a single day. If you calculate the amount of money they will make from the single travelers, that say you'd come for a hotel stay for a day, it's 10K, 15K, even if your hotel is 15, 20K per night. I think that is the main reason that, and then most of the hotel managers, for hotels, the management goes by hierarchy. You see his age. For him to get to become a manager, it's a process. They grow. So when they get on top there, they've come down with this mentality and thinking until to that point. So for the hotel to embrace that, the modern consumer, young people want to spend money, they'll not be afraid. For them to embrace that, that's one. Maybe in December, they'll pay an influencer, because now there's no conferencing in December. Now that I'll tell you. They pay an influencer in December, there's no conferencing, they want to get holiday, that's when they get money from that. But the rest of the time, so now it's for them to embrace AI to sell to, but to sell to hotels, you don't need that. You need to bid and do, to sell to corporates, you need to bid and do all those other things. So it's maybe during December.
Okay, that's
Just allow me to.
yes.
Let me discuss around the travel agency. This is interesting because you can see the two conflicting perspectives, and we as travel agents, we are caught in between. Perspective is, in my opinion, is that yes, the hotel knows the products that sells the most, and I think they know that it is conferencing. And the question is, how can you get to use instead of influencers or technology, then to be able to push for it? Because now you see, USA is out as a major player. Then who fills in the gap? If you've got this product and you don't shout about it using the modern platforms, assuming that these are corporates, and I believe that behind every institution, there are people. And these people, it is about whatever they get to consume. If I work with, for example, with the UN, and there's something that, for example, there's this hotel that it has. It is me who's going to get to propose it, even if it is a corporate setting. So in my opinion, I think that there's still an opportunity for the hoteliers, the travel agencies, and all other players to be able to adopt to where we are today. The question is, if whatever we have, it is working today, there's a very high chance it won't work tomorrow. So if you still don't think about how it will work tomorrow, then I think there is power in the future.
Okay, let's have the gentleman at the back, and then we come here. Yeah.
Thank you very much. My name is Fred Ogeti. I work in the hospitality industry. I have a concern for the people who serve an older generation like myself. I work in a members club. So the conversation that is going on is that we embrace AI, but we have a generation that is way past it. Them, they only use SMS, and sometimes even when we send emails, they don't see them. So for the Gen Zs and the millennials and the alphas, them, the AI is already there. They're going to step into it. Those that are left behind, as a hospitality practitioner, how do we approach this if already the consumer is out of reach? Thank you.
Okay, let's have one of the panelists just answer that.
Okay.
Then we go back to the group. Yeah, you'll be next. Yeah, Kevin.
Okay, I think I'll speak to the influencer. I think your biggest struggle is you're struggling with conversion, right? So I'd probably say, look at your audience on point of, despite building the brand, how can you be able to show the element of the conversion rate? Because I think there'll be a lot of value there. There's a discussion around something called open data, which pretty much the data you generate belongs to you, and you invite whichever party you want to consume that data. So if you work inside a restaurant, you can actually go and say, this is my open data. With regards to your specific brand, this is what I have done to be able to push value to you. In economic downturns, marketing budgets are fast to be slashed. Already, as you see, the advent of getting budgets will become harder and harder unless you can be able to demonstrate the conversion rate. I didn't get her name, but if you go back to strategy, if you look at your ideal customer profile for any establishment, there's multiple customer streams. There's events and conferencing, there's your restaurants, there's your rooms, there's trainings. I think having a CFO is able to map all those out to identify which brand taps into what, then you can always make sure there's consistent revenue. Of course, not all revenue is the same. The example I'll give is KQ. Over 90% of their revenue is ticketing. They have KQ holidays coming up. They have a Sunday rewards coming up. But it's even very good in terms of saying, even if you're talking about holidays maybe we want to target 2% of our revenue. So I'd say look at the element of holistic, not just saying conferencing per se, so to speak. So I think those two queries are tapping. And then in terms of the members club, your front-facing engine is just that. It's not intelligent. The intelligence doesn't sit on Facebook or WhatsApp SMS. The intelligence sits between your CRM and your AI algorithms. So even the older generation, I'm sure maybe they use a card, right? What if I came in Papt Academy can tell I last had a mocha, so to speak, right? Or the last time I came in, they gave feedback around maybe the rooms or something, At that point, they actually prompt you and something personal. You don't want personal touch, but you need information. We also see elements of Gen Zs getting information being sent to their phones. And an example I'll give is, if you look at most of fuel stations now, when you pay on M-Pesa, all the agents get an alert. right? So that's a good example in terms of anyone working. It's possible to disseminate their ideal profile to all the parties to serve them better, again, using intelligence algorithms, so to speak.
Okay, Kevin.
I have a very good one. I get a sense we may be coming to the end. So I think I have two questions, or rather two perspectives around the influencer question. I think one is influencers have become an essential part of brand discovery and also the storytelling piece, what we call the top of the funnel. And unfortunately, you can't achieve engagement, conversion, and retention if at the top of the funnel, the brand is not seen and heard, all right? On the same notion, the question also becomes the influencer in question. Who are you speaking to? And do they represent the demographic that this particular client is looking for? And that sort of influencer fit versus brand fit is critical because depending on the nature of the product, you may not be necessarily the most ideal influencer unless you are representing the customer base they're trying to reach. Now, if I use a personal example, I have somewhere in the region of about 120,000 people across all my social media platforms, right? Today, LinkedIn is my number one platform. I probably publish 2 to 3 podcasts a week. There's content every day, newsletters, etc., etc. But the kind of clients that I attract are what I call the B2B customer. Somebody who's trying to sell a product worth 5 million, 10 million shillings, a piece of computer software, an expensive smartphone that costs 150,000 shillings. That's the kind of brand that I work with. Now, within my small little numbers, what you find is that I'll hear back from, let's say, a data center that will tell me, Moses, because you did a tour of our data center 3 months ago, we have sold business worth 5 million. Right now, I'm doing another engagement I've just finished with a client who sells to banks and insurance companies, and they made me put a link in everything I post so that they'll have what we call attribution to confirm if that video or that reel or whatever I created is pulling people back to actually potentially a purchase decision or at least start the lead generation process. And funny enough, already in front of Moses, we have some serious inquiries. So I think there's a question around influencer brand fit, but also the question around at the top of the funnel, if people don't understand or know you exist for the problem they need to solve, then the business can't even begin. And that means reaching a much wider audience. And I think a lot of the traditional hospitality businesses are more focused on sales than marketing. They want activities that show bottom line impact tomorrow, rather than this narrative of we keep spending to build brand story that may sell us in 6 months, if you see what I'm saying. So those are some of the challenges that you need to overcome.
Thank you. And it's part of the conflict that I see in the industry. And I know, for those of you guys who have teenage kids, if you ask what they want to do, all of them want to be content creators, right? I've never really understood that. It's become a very popular career. The challenge has been, how do you pitch conversations? And part of the thing I feel we need to do, those of us who are slightly older in the industry, is how do we nurture the younger influencers to help them understand and how to structure business conversations? Because we understand what these younger people are doing is important, but how do you approach a hotel in a way you can pitch in the language they understand? Because any conversation you have with a hotel must be coined in the language of revenue. That is ultimate. And that is it's not that sometimes they despise you, it's sometimes how we pitch and position. And there are many ways to do it. Moses has spoken about attribution, where you say, you can charge for the content itself, and then you put a markup and say, first, just charge for this content piece. Then, every month, you can promote the content, and for every 100,000 views, because I've created the content, we can agree on a licensing agreement. And then every time I mention you, there's a call to action, and that call to action is tied to whatever activity. And that's kind of a win-win scenario in terms of negotiation. Let me touch briefly on what the gentleman spoke about. He spoke about, and I think Ronald touched on it, he spoke about how do we deal with the older generation, because we are a club and the older generation prefer to use SMS. The reality is, like he said, AI is in the back end. You can still use a smart AI model that reminds you that you need to renew your country club membership. It's overdue. It's an SMS, but it almost feels like it's come from a person. The flip side that I'm seeing with country clubs, is that there's one side where you say you have older audiences. The flip side is that, and Moses will allude to me, is that country clubs are actually beginning to struggle. Why? Country clubs started in the old generation. When Nairobi Club started, it was a gentleman's club of old people who wanted to read the newspaper and they wanted their peace. No women were allowed. And it was a place where old men would go in the evening and smoke pipes and discuss. And so the rules for country clubs were set around that era. So if you go to current country club, by and large, that exclusivity has been done. But here's the challenge. These old guys are dying off. They are Gen Z kids who love to play with Xbox. They don't want that snobbish country club. How will they adapt? What am I talking about? As you think about your hotel business, one of the things I really want us to do, and this is how you can leverage, is think on your feet. You say business is gone. I have a friend who runs Shala Country Resorts. I used to talk to him about advertising. He said, we don't need to advertise. Right now, they're on Twitter every day. You know, you say used to be driving the hotel industry, the whole Western circuit. 80% of, if you think about the hotel industry, Kisumu, that whole was just NGOs around HIV and all those other things. That business is gone. My question for you as hoteliers, we live in a very volatile world. And one of the industries that, yesterday I saw a report on cholera. There's been cholera all over the place. If you sit here and say my core target audience is, premium businesses in target X, you must have plan A, plan B, plan C, and plan D audiences. And it's not just Kenya. Trump has just woken up and is doing a price war with China in terms of trade. The world we live in, the reality is that it's not, the way we say things are bad in Kenya. Let me give you some stats. Things are bad in Kenya and we're all looking up to Rwanda. All of a sudden, Rwanda is beginning to get sanctions, right? South Africa has been having a domain with the United States. You cross Uganda, there might be a succession issue. You get what I mean? I tell people, when we are in doing business, let's be ready to do business in a time of war. And how will you adapt? If COVID happened right now, another pandemic, how will your hotel operate? What that means is that you need to plan like 10 contingencies in terms of what are the audiences I want to go for in plan A. If you say business is not working, what are the audience segments? Let me give you a very practical one. Moses and I are trainers and we run in our own right. Who has not thought about a package for people like us where we bring people to your hotel? We run AI workshops and it's an integrated package. Which executive will not want to justify his company to go for a retreat because it's AI training? But you know what? He's also been away. Has anyone thought about the audience like people like us where you can build products? Yes, we are not big conference like you are, but you know what? I grabbed to you about 20 guys. Those 20 guys are families. So what I'm driving at is that we must learn to think on our feet and say, which 10 segments can I go for if plan A is not working and how do I activate them? Thank you.
Yes. So back to the floor.
Just
One comment, then we.
One comment to that. Earlier on, Kevin spoke about the digital customer journey. There's now a blend between physical and digital. As you saw, you can scan the QR code, we can tell you're here, you can get the Wi-Fi code, we can tell you to log in, etc. Whenever you're able to map that out, right, into one particular bit linked to a CRM, AI can be able to unearth insights in real time. Again, whatever insights keep popping up there, it's important to gather and say, how then do we begin understanding this new customer segment that is coming up? An example I'll give back to the club is Mofaiga. Mofaiga many years back, old guys club, they now have a specific section for the young guys, right? You can go grab your drinks, you can have a party, you can have a DJ, but if you come back to the main club, it's a very different conversation altogether. They just look at the stats and say, who is our customer and who is coming up? I think at the time, the executives getting into CEO were much younger, maybe by 35 or so, earning good money. Yet the previous generation, good money was 50 years and above. So again, if you do your digital customer journey linked to insights in real time, can allow you to unearth what's coming up in your space that can then allow you to think. And then tools like ChatGPT, I use that a lot for business planning. If you just give it a proper prompt to identify this user profile in this particular segment, how can we solve that? We can give you initial thoughts around the plan. Then you can build on top of that.
That's one.
This is more of a here. Yeah, then that's
For those asking why hotels are acting the way they are acting, it's because of the way you work there. The only way to get business from a hotel as a tour operator, good rates, as an advertising agent, as good rate, is to identify each unit's offerings in terms of revenue, in terms of their business. So you go to them with an opportunity to clear their business. It's not about money. It's about where they need to understand where is the shortfall. You are not getting corporate business. I am doing this, and not just developing a flyer or creating like agencies do a whole strategy. You need to go to hotels with a detailed proposal of what you want to do for them. Then even the old man can see this, we invest in this, I shall get this. But if you don't do that, it is just another, no executive, including newspapers. You must go to somebody with an opportunity. This is where your gaps are, and this is what we can do for you. And only then will the old man who's the general manager think, yes, there's an opportunity here.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Elvis Akida. I'm the digital marketer CIALA out in Zoom. That's CIALA. So I want to touch on two things, quality and moderation. First of all, I'm from the millennial, so I look at things from the perspective of a millennial. But so we have the three groups. There's the Gen X, there's the Gen Z. Gen X will be the business owner, the person who owns the business. What are they interested in? They hear AI is going to save because they're going to get better ROI, they are for it. The Gen Z is about doing it fast. It's not about quality. It's about doing it on the snap and the presented. But there's the millennial who is actually looking at the quality. There's AI which will give faster work. There's the boss who needs the cost to be reduced, but I need to put out quality work. So what do I do? Do I go back to my tried and tested tools? Do I go back to my Adobe? Or do I go to Canva and please the boss and save the cost? So I think we need to teach moderation. There are tools that are ready. There are tools which we can use maybe to analyze data, but there are tools which are not market ready at the moment. So for the bosses, they need to save. For the younger generation, they need to save time. But there's a generation which looks at quality. So I think we really need to also emphasize on the quality. Apart from it being a new technology, it's great. It's good to be an early adopter. Learning it, it's going. But we also need to reach that it's growing to get to a point where it might be able to replace, but there are jobs which really need you to put in the effort. Let me say for an example, I was speaking to guys of Google yesterday. They are telling me, okay, your performance marks ads are doing well, but you need to put them in different orientations. What I did, I could have taken the video, put it on Google Ads, reformat it for me. I would have done the work the boss exactly. But what do I do? I go get the content, do the different orientations because I know the content that I generate is going to be way better than AI. So isn't it better to preach moderation than just blindly taking it as it is?
Yeah, it's not very.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Stories. I am a social media manager. I handle people's social media accounts. And my question is, you had asked about how do you use, which AI tools do you use? So personally, as a social media manager, I grow brands. If your brand is struggling with numbers, I know you're all my clients here. So thank you very much. I'll be open for that. So when it comes to the use of AI, the way Moses has said, a tool on the hand of a fool, you remain careful. So when I get a client, personally I use ChatGPT, and I wanted to ask a question about ChatGPT because I can get a lot of information about your hotel. I really have a lot of information on my desk, and I am like, if this hotel knows I have this information about their customers, how will they take it? So my question is, you've talked about prompting, how do I train my AI tool to know that this is Kevin Stories? He is a social media manager, he's working for these few brands, and these are what the brands want. Now, another tool that I use Canva, I use CapCut, and all stuff. I wanted to ask people mostly in the hotel industry and even the medical field. Personally, I have a background in medicine, but this is my area of love. I love this area. I want to ask, how can you integrate human feeling? There are services that need human feelings. For example, now in the hotel industry, someone won't see just this is a bag and doesn't look real. They want that human feeling connection. How do we integrate AI with human feeling so that now it can be optimum to the one who's consuming? Because if I will come and tell you I'm an AI expert, I have great content for you, but now our consumers, they won't interact well with the product. The other question is about automated chatbots. Mr. Moses, you talked about automated chatbots. I want to know more information about it because most of the automated chatbots that you use, they just give the same answer. Can you get to find if someone asked a question that this chatbox can answer a different question, a different answer than the other person had asked. And then the last one is how to evolve for us as social media managers. How are you going to integrate? How are you going to evolve to get into the system? Personally, I'm not vigilant. I am not letting down to know that. Thank you very much.
Yes. Then we go to MarTech.
Hi everyone, my name is Shuri. I'm a London Experience Brand Ambassador East African Growth. My background is the reason I think my intention is to seek a solution. Because I started off as a hospitality expert for the last 20 years. But what my life journey has morphed into is now I'm a luxury space expert in terms of I help the business I work for influence all the drinks that are drunk in your establishments. And hospitality is vast in terms of it's not just hotels, it's that space, it's the special events. I'm happy I saw Corey here because we worked together before in that space events. There's also bars, high-end bars that actually can benefit from AI. So my question is there a solution where I can link the AI tool to a POS system where I want to see that I introduced Joe Owako into your outlet, but the user cases are in either shots, bottles, and cocktails. So what is driving numbers and what can we do more? And link that to the social media or the content creator, where if we did a content piece on the mixologist doing cocktails and delicious pictures that can be sent into a chat box and sent to you via WhatsApp, that, what can I drink? As you say that a client is traveling to your hotel, in case of a hotel, or in case that something happening in the bars around, that this is where you can find a fantastic John Walker Gold cocktail. And this is how it looks on your WhatsApp. Then it drives that kind of client to go look for that kind of cocktail in that specific whatever. But then, as a general manager or a business owner, can I look at, so the content creator working with my mixologist developed this cocktail. Then we had listed it, but then the AI is telling me our numbers for this specific line of revenue is being driven by this cocktail. Then do I need to amplify on it on my new next cocktail menu that this is what I focus on and what is generating for me
revenue as opposed to a cocktail that everybody knows that Long Island is there, but doesn't need to be on the menu. But I can introduce this signature cocktail that will drive numbers for me. Is there something that can create that is that kind of solution? Because even for me, like an account manager, when I come visit my market, I can tell, okay, so I need to introduce bullet as a bubble in this outlet. Then how does it generate that kind of story for me, a narrative that I can use for the next plan and the next plan, building for myself numbers? Is there something that can work on like that?
Okay, we take some 2 questions back there.
Good afternoon. My name is Peter. I'm from Simba Hospitality, by extension, the Street Kitchen. So I'm in sales, and it's good to be amongst marketers. So I see the conversation regarding what usually happens, but then again, when it comes to sales, that's what you want to see, what has come in. However, several concerns actually. There have been so many AI generation websites and whatnot. If you look at futurepedia.com or .ai, you can see a plethora of AI with several options. However, every time I go log into that website, I don't see anything that touches hospitality. There's a question I've actually asked on WhatsApp on my status. How can you integrate AI in a human interaction predominant industry? Where, yes, there's element of CRM, there are elements of POS system, but how does it come to a point where you now use it in such a way that you can send reminder emails, you can send prompt texts, with still remaining within the law, as well as having your every day-to-day functionality for your various outlets. One of the responses I got from an electrical engineer was that there are several appliances that have that automation in progress, and he showed me a coffee machine. But then I asked him, are you sure this one is going to make an espresso the same way a barista will do? So there's that element of, we want to embrace AI, but then again, there's the issue of like, how does it communicate the human aspect of people to experience and enjoy what you're providing? So this does not mean that your work as AI, well, in your specific field, does not discount it that it is less needed. But then how do we incorporate it in such a way that we want to be able to move forward, knowing all these people, all these different generations that they're going to do? Second, the element of having influencers. We've used several influencers many a times, and they do have good conversions based on what we're doing with what we've instructed them to do. There's also the idea of having discount codes that can be attributed to specific content creators. So in such a way that if they're coming for a restaurant experience, so is it influencer 1 has 10% off, influencer 2 has 15% off, and what can they use as a discount code for them to utilize within, if any of their guests are going to be exposed to their content and then come to the space? Because that is one element that they can convert. Because let's take, for example, last year, June, during the Mano, we had issues of rooms not being booked, restaurants not being visited, as well as several other things that were now plagued through the protests that were happening. So if you have such codes, at least influencers can be able to use. I think this is a very wonderful situation that we can be in the sense of discussing AI and how we can integrate it into hospitality. There's a lot more questions than answers, and if there are more proven concepts in such a way that it is working, like let's say, this is what we did in the rooms, this is what we did in the restaurant experience, this is what we did in the clubs, and the likes, that will be of much help. Thank you.
Okay, one more for the guy at the back, and then we come to the panelists.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Looks like the snacks need to be served before we finish. My name is Amaya. I work in the hotel industry. And my concern would be similar to what my millennial friend was addressing in terms of striking a balance between humans being more cerebral and critical thinkers and problem solvers rather than being humans who are dependent on a quick solution. When the presentations were being made, one of the presenters said that I had 2 students in the university can do year 4 work so excellently, but it's just through AI, and what kind of generation are we bringing up if we in entirety embrace AI? Because then I would, do a thesis in few hours when we have a professor who has taught me but had to do his thesis for like 10 years, but comes out as a finished product rather than, for lack of better word, half-baked, professor. So my question would be, how do we strike that balance where we are having people who are critical thinkers and problem solvers in a boardroom rather than having people who can easily solve problems through AI?
Okay, last one before we come to the panelists. Hand up, some of them. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Sahil from Kingfisher Hotels in Westlands. Thank you for the knowledge you've given us. Quick question is, a lot of business that we get or we tend to get will be from business to business, so the corporates or the travel agents. So is there a marketing strategy or should there be a marketing strategy to target the B2B clientele? That's it, thank you.
Okay, very good. Then we go to the panelists. No, after we go to the panelists, then we do the last round of
Hi guys, my name is Hannah from Kasiri Adventure Park, and I had a few questions in terms of AI and ethics. One of the major selling point of AI today's topic imekuwa studying the clients, learning your customers so that it can guide you on what to offer. Don't mind my shaky voice. The AC is ACing. Anyway, now in terms of that, when does this AI learning the client becomes creepy? I can use an example. Let's say, for example, my hobby online on Instagram is called collecting rubber ducks. Then I book a hotel, and when I get there, one of the gifts that they're giving me is a rubber duck. Because AI Luambia, this is something that I do. And as a hotelier or someone who works in a hotel, when I'm doing that, I'm trying to connect with the client. I'm trying to create a rapport with the client. But as a client, if I get there, I'll start wondering, are you guys spying on me or something is happening? The other question was, in terms of WhatsApp booking, I think one of the speakers talked about this when we were starting, and I wanted maybe to put an example of what system we can connect to our WhatsApp, and it will take over even the bookings. Like someone can book me directly in your POS and notifies the reservation systems as well. I think those are my questions. And finally, one of the questions in the prompt, and it does about what is something that makes you scream or something like that. As we can see, we do high adrenaline activities. So you can come and scream at Kasiri.
Okay, over to the panelists. And I've seen this aspect of integrating AI with the human features.
AI, what we're seeing is there's always a need to have a human in the loop, in one way or another. Travel agent, I'll give you an idea. There's a travel agent we are doing some work for. They rely a lot on Facebook. So the Facebook leads comes into their centralized CRM. From the CRM, they have an administrator who's able to assign travel consultants who then follow up on the leads either by calling or emailing and so forth. Now, from the point of the leads being called from social media, coming onto the CRM and allocating, an AI engine can do all that leg, right? However, the last leg of them calling back the different customers is complicated. One, because they have to get their preferences. They have to be able to confirm with the hotel. There's many manual things that need to be done at that particular point in time. However, what tends to happen is, as they're doing that, the algorithms can be able to learn again preferences and feedback, so to speak. So human in the loop, we must always have human in the loop. I've not seen, I think, a single company in Kenya right now that is able to do all journeys end to end throughout. I think it's a question around chatbots and WhatsApp and static messages. So those are dumb tools. There's no intelligence behind it. And also you'll have, most players in the market will have what you call rule-based, which is typically prompts. If somebody hits your WhatsApp line, you send a static message. And then maybe after 30 minutes, come back. That's not intelligent. However, with generative AI, it's purely depending on your data. So the integration point is your data. It's the kind of brand ethos that you want to put out there, that you train the algorithm to then pick that up. So look at it like a typical receptionist who is trained to answer all manner of questions. Again, don't get stuck on Facebook or the channels. Really, the intelligence system at the back. I think there's a number of players in the market now. There is ourselves. I think I've seen a company called Sukiba. I think I've seen a company called Chapter. They mostly focus a lot on the WhatsApp kind of a play. And then for the, I think Simba Holdings. The question I have for him is, today, if I want to come to a restaurant to have lunch, what process do I have to go under? I'm sitting here right now. So just picture this. What if there was an algorithm that can tell these tables are open? I can be able to view the table. I can be able to talk to the respective booking engine, and the engine can be sent, the result can then be sent to a server. And that journey is similar to what you asked about systems. So to do anything end to end, again, there's multiple systems needing to be integrated to a centralized engine. So you're doing a booking. There's the handshake between Facebook, maybe your reservation engine, and then again an emailing engine to send out the reservation receipt. In between there, you can have maybe an M-Pesa SDK push, so to speak, to confirm the payment and so forth. So that means deep integration back into the respective engines.
Okay, there are so many questions, so I hope I'll be able to respond to some of them. I think I heard things around integration. I think you've spoken well about the handovers and, as we move into agentic AI, where we have AI agents for different jobs. You'll have everyone from the initial customer service or sales engagement. You'll have agents that are processing a ticket. You have agents that are confirming satisfaction. You have agents that will try and sell you, upsell you, cross-sell you after the initial sale. And I think a lot of that is going to be based on doing a lot of integrations into existing systems that you have, using things like APIs, but also building new applications that allow you to create those workflows. And I think to some extent, like the marketing automation piece where, you have triggers for different things that are happening from step to step. So maybe I think from that point of view, what you're asking about the bar and the drinks and so forth, how are you able to connect the CRM to marketing automation, to the sales process, to maybe a digital experience platform that is connected to your website. And I think orchestrating all those activities in a holistic way with the AI at the core is how you'll be able to achieve those outcomes. So I think almost the architecture, the mapping that out becomes critical. Then there's a question, I think, around the B2B marketing approach, which is an area that I find so sexy, to be honest. because people are spending so much time on the consumer side of marketing and not so enough on the business to business. One of the immediate go-to platforms I'll think of is LinkedIn. LinkedIn, because you can do role-based marketing. You can say, I want to speak to the marketing managers in Kenya for companies with these characteristics. Or I need to speak to, I think there was the question around the events and the conferencing space, that I can market from business to business using a platform like LinkedIn quite effectively. And I think that what you do there is a combination of content that speaks to them, advertising that goes directly to them based on their role and their interests in the product or service that you offer. And then even there, if you're working with influencers, and maybe this comes back to the previous question about influencers, it feels like there's different influencers for different scenarios. And that's where now you sort of try and look at market segments. Who am I trying to reach? Who's the influencer that could, or what we call a key opinion leader that would speak to this kind of person about this subject matter? So being able to almost think about it almost like being a toolbox where you're picking up a spanner for this purpose, a screwdriver for that purpose, and maybe a hammer for the other purpose, rather than a one size fits all. So I think for me, those are probably the two responses I think that would be relevant to the stuff that I know.
There's a question that was asked about when does AI become creepy in terms of obviously valuing your privacy, which is a very good question. And there are two sides to that coin. Typically, when in a hospitality environment, and now I'm talking really about what I call the leisure traveler, there is something about personalization and premiumizing the experience, if there's such a word, where you know me so well that how you set up everything for me is really me. And a lot of customers tend to value that you know that I like rubber ducks and it's in a corner. And in fact, when you're looking at selling premium experiences, one of the things they tend to emphasize is about understanding your consumer and being able to offer that depth of personalization. I think sometimes it's about experimenting. We tend to fear something we've not attempted. So I will encourage that. But I will approach personalization in tiers, and I will start at the very basic level where it's really my first name and last name. And then I move down the tier. How many of you run properties where you host people coming on honeymoons or things like that? Is there anyone here who's your hotel properties, maybe it's leisure, people come on honeymoons? There's none here. Oh, okay. Now, I've always asked myself, the hotel where I got married, I'll be celebrating 20 years of marriage this year. I've asked myself, how come every year they don't send me a happy anniversary and give me an offer? Because one of the biggest drivers of revenue is that we tend to ignore is what we call lifetime value. You need to learn to optimize lifetime value. Why? If Kevin had a honeymoon in your hotel, it means Kevin this time has a family. Can I design family package in that Mombasa hotel? So personalization can really be used to your advantage if you think about it well. There's another question someone asked about attribution, where he said, can there be a POS that I can track and say that these were the sales? Yes, in a certain environment, you have tools like Shopify, and Shopify has a 360-degree solution where their online platform, their POS, and their digital platforms are integrated into one, where you're even able to track which influencer brought you revenue. One of the partners I'm working with, and I hope they will be here, is they're called Profit Group. They're one of the largest booking engines. And so what they've done is they've integrated their platform. It's integrated to a chatbot. They've integrated it so well that even if an influencer does a content, they can get a hashtag, and you can tell that influencer, I'll pay you half will be tied to attribution revenue. For every time your content is published out there, and every time your YouTube is seen, you can put a code and it's linked. And if people click on that on a booking engine, you can track that. One of the biggest missing opportunities, and Moses will agree with me, in this market is how we've set up our technology to track conversions. It's a really, really big missing piece. So what ends up happening is that when you're doing marketing activity, we don't know what is really driving or what are the revenue drivers, which content piece is linked to booking and ensuring that my rooms are full. One of the first steps I will always emphasize for every person I interact with, metrics, dashboard, and tracking is very, very important, because it's the driver within which you know what activities are driving revenue for you and your establishment. Thank you.
Yes.
Let me speak into ethics. There's a lot of ethical concerns that are arisen globally in terms of AI. Elements to with bias, elements to with the human interactions, and the rest. And what we're seeing is we're seeing AI governing councils being set up. And for the larger organizations, we're seeing some of the board people also addressing AI concerns. So as they keep coming up, there's policies being done. I haven't tried the Kenyan National AI Strategy, but Kenya launched the strategy, I think, like 2 weeks ago. It's a part of the concerns that are being discussed. However, in our case, we have a problem tracking 6 million passengers flying KQ every year. And the second problem was, how do you make sure that all the passengers who are flying, you're able to talk to them according to the rights they have given you? Data privacy laws. I think a simple fine can be in excess of 1 million shillings now if you're caught up on data privacy kind of concerns. So we ended up figuring that we can use context to be able to store the rights being given, and then we can use the different customer touch points to be able to then confirm what message to send to them, and if they withdraw the consent, that can be done as well. Then some kind of safeguards, they allow for elements of ethical concerns to be addressed.
From what I'm gathering from our discussion is that we are lacking a lot of training in this part of the region. Training and infrastructure development in elements of AI and internet is still very low. Now, I take training differently. I take training, the first trainer is yourself. So following the discussion today, AI should be in the agenda for the next 3 months. Just play around with it. And then also lobbying that the infrastructure on internet is put into play. And if I bring a bit of politics into this, there was a time when our kids are supposed to get computers, isn't it? That was part of the infrastructure that maybe what we're discussing now. We don't have that infrastructure. If that infrastructure was to come in and we all get trained, because we are the incubators. Regrettably, in the hospitality industry, we are the incubators. And I'll tell you about new international brands coming to the market. Those new international brands have already integrated their AI in their operations. So it's very easy for Movenpick to have a new December cuisine and share it based on their protocols to over 10,000 or 100 or even millions. Remember when Villarosa opened, when it went on to internet, the day they opened, according to the general manager, 20 million people knew about it on their WhatsApp because they are members of the affiliates. And that is what we are missing in our SMEs. So while we develop that, then my agreement with you would be, let's go into training and training and training. And you see what we're discussing here becoming much more easier. People are talking about humanizing it. It's able to humanize. There's enough for humanizing. We talked about a chef creating cocktail menus. When you load the ingredients of the cocktail menus, for example, very simple, the ingredients of a cocktail menu, and you want to create another one, the same AI will create 5 additional cocktail menus based on what you have forwarded with the prompts, including new names. So from where I sit, training should be our focus on as individuals, forgetting where you're coming from. Talking to our old generation, it starts from within. It will be 2 years, according to Alec, to think about AI. So the older generation will not appreciate it, but slowly they will come into agree. The older generation, don't forget, never accepted M-Pesa, for example. They never accepted it. Even the bankers never accepted M-Pesa because it was going into their turf. But today, there's no bank without an M-Pesa and using it. It's the same thing. When our parents were doing PhDs, my father took, I think, 4 years and 10 in class. People were doing PhD online. Today, in some classes abroad, you are not given assignments. They don't gauge your performance on the handouts you give out. You actually go into class and read, trying to clear the element of AI assisting you in exams. So my objective is just go out there, just learn 3 months, just dive in it. When you think about a bank, think about AI. Go to AI first. Thanks.
Okay, back to the audience. As we take more questions, the trend we've noted in the hospitality industry, actually one is training. Now, not just individual training, but hoteliers sending out their people for training. I think it's quite low. So I want you to share some of the challenges and also buying. I think that cuts across the industry as marketers. Getting buy-in from top management, because without top management support, nothing gets done. Okay, so yeah, okay. You, the Ren. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. One of the panelists showcased that an establishment did this and lead this way. There were several comparisons there. Some of the things that will throw back would be the imagination that capital outlay that will be required to, like for example, this virtual reality thing. Could be who high, are you able to quantify as hypothesis that, like, in this establishment, they can basically what you say and they did so and so. So that we have a tandem idea that when we are back to our organizations, you can initiate something and you have information of what are the quantitative equivalents monetarily you're talking about.
Thank you, Red.
Very much. First and foremost, my name is Jennifer Foloshi. I'm from the Zambia High Commission, the Tourism Attaché. The home of the Victoria Falls. Please put it on your bucket list. I would first and foremost like to thank the presenters. I've literally watched how my marketing career has evolved. And now my question is, as marketers, how do we ensure that we don't lose our creativity? Because what I'm literally seeing here is no disrespect, engineers starting to tell us how to do our jobs as marketers. Thank you.
Hello everyone. My name is Sam from Non-Girl Finance Safaris. So my question is there any tools to determine, I'm asking that question based on Safari booking. In experience, let me tell you what happened. We were 3 of us guys and request came for me. It was 7 days due, 7 days, 6 nights. And the same request after 2 hours popped in my friend's phone, and the same request after 2 hours again popped another friend who was a new guy in the market,
And all of us received the same request from Safari Booking. And now, the amazing thing is, why did they send all of us? So my question is there any tool can you determine that this request was sent to another person at this time? And you know the way you can, someone can send you a document and it analyzes an AI thing, you know, and you can tell this guy, it was not his writing or his mind. Is that in a detect is an AI. So I want to know, is there any tool you can detect this guy? Because the moment the request comes, they deduct your money. You know, as a company, you're losing. Because they have sent him, and then it will be an issue like, why did you deduct my money? And you know, it's an offer, you use a legal thing, you know, you have back and forth things. That's what I want to know.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Paul Onemashiti, but you can call me Chef Brian. A certified Gen Z. I own a restaurant in Madaraka, we recently opened a restaurant. It's called Madaraka Kitchen. But some of my friends tell me that it's a 5-star hotel because I used to call it a kibanda. They told me that's too low. So I call it a 5-star hotel. And I was particularly interested in this roundtable because I believe that food is the center of the hospitality industry. What do we think about food in Africa is that when you open your doors to someone, is that you invite them into your house. The first thing you offer them is food. And I haven't really heard people talking about food throughout this roundtable. And I wanted to emphasize the fact that in the food industry, we don't really interact very much with AI. The integration of AI in the kitchen is puzzling to me. I understand that we can do many things with AI, especially the marketing part and everything. But when it comes to what the lady has talked about, the engineers are trying to tell us how to do our job. It's really great to talk about all this fascinating stuff, but really the AI part in the kitchen. We talked about the hotels, the tourism and everything, but how do we land AI into the kitchen? Thank you.
One more, okay. We'll take the last three, then the panelist, wind up. Okay. Yes. You can start and then, or either way. Yeah. But you two and then.
Okay, let me start.
Okay, then we'll go that.
Okay.
Only this.
Thank you for this roundtable, quite timely. My name is Johnson Gelly, come from the Social House, in charge of revenue management. My 3 questions are basically on how you can strike a balance between or rather, when you're doing the AI adoption and also personalization, as well as return on investment. Then number 2 is the research gaps. I'm just summarizing research gaps that exist because it's a new thing that has come and, okay, not new per se, but in this market, and what the future looks like in terms of adoption and also the challenges that we have in terms of integration. And the last one will be, we have seen several other adoptions of some things like this. I will talk about revenue management because that is where I'm based in terms of professionalism. And in terms of that, we saw revenue management come to this industry or this market. The first time it was something that is not supposed to be here. It was like revenue manager is the guy who's doing e-commerce. The guy who's doing e-commerce, the one who's doing OTA optimization and all that. So can we also try to see how is our experts in terms of FTCs and also in terms of Strathmore is one of the organization driving this across. I've seen you could do it also for revenue management. How can we make sure that it's adopted in the executive level, functional level, and also operational level? Thank you.
Okay, blue, then the lady behind you.
Just from one in the interest of time, my question is directed to Moses. I think GPS is one of the marketing platform that, or an area that can be used for marketing. I want to understand, is there an AI or a best tool I can use GPS location itself to tap in lead generation? So for marketers, it's about lead generation, so that they have a sales team, they can convert it. Is there an AI or is there an AI that I can use or leverage on it to create more leads, especially being that the hotel that I work is in Baringo, which is very, very far. So I want to tap everybody who is coming all the way or using the route to Nakuru to remember there's Lake Bogoria on that area. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jacqueline Kali from Kenya Association of Women in Tourism. I am very curious about AI and I have consumed it and I love it. But as a Pan-Africanist, I read something that brought me a lot of joy, that we're going to have an AI factory in South Africa, because all these innovations are extremely expensive for Africans. So if we have it here, a factory in Africa, then that means we are able to innovate as Africans. I believe our intelligence is above average, which, and I'm biased because I actually believe we'll get better products once we have a factory that's affordable for our people. So what are the opportunities to lobby for change of policy? Our policies are very outdated. So what are the opportunities and which bodies are lobbying for adoption of innovation? My particular concern is with Kipi. The process of getting a patent is just, first of all, it's expensive for the normal person, and yet in Europe, even a 5-year-old child can get certification for a patent. But here it is a rigorous, complicated, and expensive process. So if we could lobby for that process to be simplified and made more accessible for the normal person, then we'll get a lot more innovations in Africa and Kenya. Thank you.
Okay, the last two, then we finalize.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Claire. I'm a digital marketer in one business hotel that has a lounge here in Nairobi. And I have a few questions that I'll ask the industry players to also assist me. I'm still new in the industry. I'm from the media, so joining in hospitality is quite a different shift, and so I'm in the learning process. Number one, I'd like to ask, how, with the new trends on TikTok, especially in terms of creating content, what is the perspective of having funny and trendy songs for a business hotel? How will you like that? Because I find there's quite a bit of rigidity from my leaders, in terms of, because you find some hotels will integrate funny posts, funny trends, funny music, and they feel they're quite business and they should stick to the old music. Maybe someone can advise there. And then number two, how do you get to convince staff to be part of content creation? I find sometimes it's like there's already internal fights, because part of content creation, there's also involvement of the staff, maybe from the kitchen, maybe from the service team, from the F&B team, and that team works once in a while may lack. So how do you other guys do it? And then now that I've mentioned, we also have a bar. Anyone who has managed accounts for the for the bar or for a bar in that sense. Which ways do you guys use to get data protection consent from clients? When you take photos from them, of course, someone who is having alcohol, you cannot easily trust on their word of mouth. Can I take a photo of you? And they say yes, and then tomorrow you post them, and you're in a board meeting. So I don't know, maybe Tim could advise what other ways or which other ujanja in quotes are you people using to get this?
Okay, very last question.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike, Obisam Safaris CEO and also East Africa partner for AfroHosts. We actually have a website made with AI, which is very good. That is from Canada, which I feel like we're being left behind in terms of information in Africa. Basically, what he said is what we lack is training, but what I see is information. Because right now, when we are talking about AI, this is something that we've been there for over years. Also, the implementation of AI in terms of making websites and everything started way back, like 2-3 years ago. So, as we say, garbage in, garbage out. So it's the proper information that we need for proper training so that we can get the most of AI. Also, I had 3 questions to Mr. Kevin. How can small and medium sized tourism businesses in Kenya leverage affordable MarTech tools to compete with the larger international brands while still preserving authentic local experiences? Another question is to Mr. Ronald Okumu. What is the next breakthrough in AI for tourism that could radically transform how travelers discover, plan, and experience destinations in East Africa and also the hotel industry as well? The last question is all of you. What collaborative strategies can the public and private sector adopt to create an AI-driven tourism ecosystem that empowers the local community and boosts sustainable tourism development without losing authenticity? Thank you.
Okay, over to the panel. So, Ronald.
I left my notebook, so I'm really struggling with the questions. But I think the first question I'll mention to you is you saw and Moses' presentation about virtual reality and augmented reality. I think that's going to be the next thing. What we're seeing immediately is there are companies that have now been able to do your entire walkthrough into an airport. Right, so you can actually be in your plane and you can actually see the duty-free shops. You can see what you're going to be going through the experience. You can actually see your bag that's moving along all entirely virtually. So in the hotel industry, I think the thing is how do you be able to then get your content into a manner which can be consumed by your customers in certain kind of forums. So I think augmented reality and the VR is probably what I would see in the next step. Of course, literally customer data and personalization. Somebody asked about costs. If you're looking at, say, for example, the cost of implementing, let's say, a chatbot. I'll give you 2 examples, a web chat and a WhatsApp chatbot. So, and here the assumption is that you have a website. So the first thing is invest in a website. Make sure your website is optimized. And then on the website, there is tagging that is done to tell users coming in, dropping off, that can then be picked up by the WhatsApp bot. So for the WhatsApp, it's really your cost of setting up a WhatsApp line. AI costs are very expensive. So what is being charged now is almost like a per engagement pricing. Like you find in our case on some engagements as low as 5 shillings. WhatsApp maybe would charge you like another 3 shillings, right, on an engagement. And then, of course, there's now your typical other running costs. So it's not as expensive. It's similar to software as a service, like the offer that we've given to the team that's here pretty much allows you to use all the tools from automation, engagement, and insights at a flat fee. And this is unlimited, right? So it's not expensive. However, if you say you want to build your own LLMs, I can assure you spend a few millions of dollars to get to that extent. Revenue management and the element of how to get buying. So I'd say establishments like yours, very structured. You possibly have your chief technical officer, right? So that's your immediate sponsor. So I think the thing is to align with them in terms of how do they intend to adopt certain things around AI. And then two, look at use cases which can allow you to gain credibility and to gain buy-in from them in terms of wins. And what we found typically becomes a immediate point is insights. Depending on the insights you're getting, you're able to increase the number of insights you're getting as a first point. Very low entry, very cheap and dirty, and then you begin building from there. And then I think the kitchen in terms of AI, what we have done personally in kitchens relates to inventory management. I'm sure you've done your unit economics on the food pricing. So if you've done unit economics on food pricing, you can know a sack of potatoes will give you X number of fries, right? So what if you have an inventory intelligence system telling you your demand for potatoes for the weekend is high, however, the price of potatoes in the market right now has dropped. What would you do? Because the demand for chips is high over the weekends, yet the price of potatoes has dropped. You possibly go and buy a bit more potatoes to be able to then use that intelligently. However, in terms of cooking, I've seen some bots cooking. I don't know how that tastes, but I'd say you look at your entire journey in terms of the food, then the elements whereby you can be able to adopt AI. I think earlier he asked about POSs. What we're seeing is IT people technically want to sell you another system. Buying another system means another data silo, means another integration, means another cost. So what we're doing is from your data warehouse. Typically, your data warehouse is your storehouse where all your information on the organization lies, from customer to finance, and you can segment that. If you're able to work from the data warehouse, right, as a central point, the algorithms, then the information can definitely be pushed out to another system. But there's a contingency there. Do the system have APIs? And if they have APIs, what do those APIs provision for? So API stands for Application Programming Interface. It's just a door area. How do I cross to the side of things? So if, say for example, a technical guy is able to use specific APIs, we can tell you what to provision for. Case in practice I'll give you is, there's a company that is using a CRM with a function which they've never used before, around summarizing email correspondences from their customers, right? So the APIs told us that we can run automation on the email, respond to their customer, and still summarize the email and push that email to this segment of the CRM. The contact center agent works on a separate segment on the CRM as well. And again, the API told us that whatever they are posting on that segment, we can read. So then we're doing a contextual comparison between the email summary, what the contact center agent has done on the centralized CRM, and then pushing out a response on email to the customer. So again, it depends on what the CRMs can accommodate. The APIs can accommodate.
Then there was a question on marketers losing their creativity.
Yeah, I have that here actually. So first of all, I think just like I said about the dentists, they've been doing dentistry for hundreds of years maybe. The fundamental skill set and the need continues to exist. And I think it's always evident when you see a marketing campaign that was not done with a marketer behind it, because it loses some of the key principles that you see in the final outcome. And I think that if anything, the marketer's role is going to be even more strategic, because in a world where everything starts to look the same, case in point is you'll notice that recently words like underscored or thrilled have become part of our regular lexicon in English, because everyone is using ChatGPT to generate copy. You start to notice that fingerprint, that this was an AI-generated outcome. And again, coming back, I think, to some of the questions that came out earlier, where for those human-led experiences where somebody doesn't go to a place to see something that looks like AI, but wants something that looks authentically genuine or human, I think that the role of the marketer, if anything, becomes more strategic, because what you're doing is you're applying marketing, but within the context of a digital world with AI at the center of it. So it's about, I think, enabling or enhancing our fundamental capabilities and key principles within the role and the function and the profession of marketing, but not so much replacing it. I don't think the technologist has the ability to direct a marketer in a way that a marketer can drive a campaign or formulate a campaign or run a marketing campaign in a manner that's going to actually deliver business results. There was a question about TikTok for business hotel, and I think sometimes I see people do things online almost from a formal perspective, like fear of missing out, that there's a trend, there's a challenge, and therefore we need to do the same. And of course, when something is trending and interesting, of course, it looks cool, it looks fun, but does it add value? Is it, even consistent with your brand ethos or reputation? And I think those are the kind of questions you need to ask yourself, whether you're doing it for FOMO or you're doing it for something that is going to position or package in the right way in terms of your core brand values. And I think it comes back to understanding, like that phrase, begin with the end in mind. Who are you targeting? Who is this content for? If you're a business hotel, is TikTok even the place where you're going to find your customers? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe LinkedIn is where you should be spending more time trying to optimize for that platform, because it allows you to reach more people who are looking for a business experience. There's also the question, I think, about the hotel in Mogoria or in Baringo. I wasn't sure which one. How do you reach people? And I think it goes down to what we call geo-targeting, where you can run campaigns to people within a certain proximity, but also using something called first-party data. You already have a database of past customers. Is it possible to use a platform like, let's say, Meta Ads or even Google Ads, where you can do something called lookalike audiences and target people who have the similar criteria to your past customers, people who've actually been customers with you in the past? So you can use, again, the targeting capabilities enabled through AI to identify potential customers on these platforms based on, the fact that they were your previous customers or exhibit similar characteristics to customers you've had in the past. The AI Factory's feedback, I think, was amazing. This was coming out of Econet through a company called Cassava. And actually, it's not just an AI factory in South Africa. We're going to get one here in Nairobi as well. They're deploying 5 different AI factories across the continent. Kenya is going to get one of them. And what's an AI factory? It's basically a data center that provides intelligence, which means that we're going to have the ability to train our own local models, even in our own native languages, right here in Kenya as well. So I think that's a huge, huge opportunity going forward. And then I think there's also a question around affordable MarTech tools. I think we're very fortunate today that we have companies like Zoho, we have companies like HubSpot, we have companies like Odo that are building ERP level platforms that are used by much larger companies, but designed and tuned for SMEs that run in the cloud. So now we have the ability to essentially do the same stuff that the big boys can do using tools like these. And I highly recommend any one of these should be able to sort you out from a MarTech perspective.
Let me add about that AI and the African context, because it's a very, very present issue. There's something called AI bias. AI bias is really that when AI generates content based on the large language model, it bases it on the nuances it has on Africa. Right now, if you go to any ChatGPT tool and say, young woman drinking soda, young Kenyan woman drinking soda, most likely she'll be wearing a kitenge. Am I right or wrong? Yeah. So there are a lot of nuances, racial biases that are not African. According to AI, anytime you say a Nairobi woman doing X, she has to wear a kitenge, which is not right. By and large, we wear modern clothes. So it's a big issue. Issues around training AI models in our local dialects, in our local context. How do you feed that into the AI model? One last answer I wanted to do was around revenue, because that seems to be one of the things I'm normally passionate about. And this is where AI really, really shines. There's something called dynamic pricing optimization, where the price Moses sees and the price I see are different. And it shines because that means it can know. Because my objective in managing revenue is ensuring that rooms are fully booked. So what it does is that it looks at different people, and depending on who's searching for the room, they're able to see different pricing options. They can see competitor rates, they can see the events. So AI has a very, very big thing in revenue. You can forecast demand more accurately, because when you're driving revenue, you need to tell your bosses, this is what we foresee based on forecasts. You can look at occupancy levels. It can look at news. Like if, let's say, there's a cholera outbreak, which there is, I've seen some reports all over the country, it can do a trigger. If there's a political event, which means you need to look at that, it can look at things like channel management, distribution, online travel agents. Like I told you, I think when I was doing my demo, one of the guys I was talking to was telling me casually how they're spending about 400,000 shillings on online travel agents. And I told them, look, if you start investing and one of the things I'm really, really passionate about, and we cover in the training, is as a hotel, you must start building the ability to distribute direct to consumer. How much are you guys giving to OTAs? 18, it depends, 15, 18%. And I've seen hotels that are very proudly proclaiming how they're number one on booking.com. No, that's a 15% cost. Typically, if you look at your cost of customer acquisition, if you're able to say, let's do our market, reduce that by about 7% and invest in access and consumers, that's a major benefit for you, number one. Number two, you get to have a direct relationship with the consumer. And if you master, those are some of the tools that AI does for you. And I think that's one of the major areas, and I know I'm kind of pitching the training we are going to be rolling out in the next month, which is going to be talking to a lot of those other things. It's really, how do you build capacity of going to direct to consumer, and how do you drive AI to be able to enable you to do that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So Tony, there was collaboration strategies for sustainable marketing.
First, I'd like to address the element of the chef. You asked about where is the chef, the element of AI. You can look at one, the back of house, which is nicely presented. But today, the chef has a capacity to do much more. If you're a chef, much more than I do today. Your customers can see a real change in you, in your offer, because of what you start using AI. And it's all in the prompt. You learn the prompt, it can create for you over 10 menu contents for a particular day, based on what you have on the market. Even worse, who to target, to do with the marketing. Worse, recipes, to create recipes for you. The thing that was very hard for chefs to create recipes. It's a nightmare. But today, it's on hand. Buffets, a la carte, name it. You can actually look at what your neighbor is doing today, bring it onto the prompt, tell the neighbor is giving, tell the AI is giving them 100 colors. Can you make me for me something similar, away, branded separately, and you get it. So AI has come really to help certain elements of hospitality.